Okay, welcome back for the second part of One Man's Faith. We were just reading the excerpt out of Matthew 21 that shows Jesus coming into Jerusalem on what we call Palm Sunday. Now, technically, it didn't happen on Palm Sunday. As a matter of fact, let's just look at that because John tells us in John 12, I think it's John 12:1, he says, and on the 6th day before Passover, okay, when Jesus came in. Now, we know that he was crucified 3 days before what was called the first day of the week, okay, which is Sunday, because Friday night to Saturday night is Sabbath, okay? So the first day of the week would be Sunday. So if you back off 3 days from Sunday, that will give you Thursday as the day that was Passover and that he was crucified, okay? Now, the start of Passover, the Passover day, is the time for their having the lamb slaughtered and cooked to be eaten at that evening, which would be the start of Friday for them, okay? I know it's a little confusing. But Thursday was Passover, the day that they prepared the lamb and then cooked it to start to eat it that night. Then if you back off 6 days from Thursday, you end up with the 6th day being Saturday, or the Sabbath day. This is why right after his entering, he goes to the temple, which he would do on the Sabbath day, and there were people selling stuff probably to get others ready for Passover, but they weren't doing it right. And so that is when Jesus ran out all the money changers out of the temple and said, this is my house, this is a house of prayer. It's not a house to be selling. Now, many of us have taken that and said, okay, then we can't sell anything in the church. Well, I don't believe that's what was going on here, and that's not why Jesus ran them out. He ran them out because they were gouging people. People had to come to Jerusalem for Passover. But each family had to have a lamb. And I believe there was a stipulation that if you were too poor for a lamb, you could use doves. And so it even says that he entered the temple and he cast out all those who were buying and selling in the temple and selling doves. All right. There were also other sacrifices in which doves could be used if you were too poor and didn't have the correct sacrifice, like a lamb or a bull or whatever. But for Passover, you had to have a lamb. And so people were coming from everywhere to Jerusalem because it was required to be in Jerusalem. All right? Which means, now maybe some who live close could bring a lamb, but those living far away, they probably didn't want to bring a lamb with them. So they were buying and selling. And you know how it is when you go to a resort place or something, the prices are sky high. You know, because they can charge it because the people need what they have. And I believe this is why Jesus ran them out, is because they were greedy. They weren't servicing the people. They were making a huge profit, or trying to make a huge profit off the people. So Jesus comes into Jerusalem on the Sabbath, okay, the Sabbath day. They had had evening service the night before, so this is the Sabbath day where there's supposed to be rest and not doing any work like buying and selling like they were doing. But he went into the temple and he ran them out, and that was the Sabbath day. It was actually what we call Saturday, but it was the Sabbath day, which runs from evening to evening, okay? And that started what was called the Holy Week, even for them, just like it's coming up next week, when Passover starts. There'll be a week of congregational meetings and sacrifices. Well, if the temple was there would be sacrifices. But it's called the Holy Week. When Passover starts and you have a week of unleavened bread, you have the Feast of First Fruits. You have those three feasts that go on at the same time. And so that starts what is called the Holy Week. Now, at the end of that time is Passover, okay, which in their case, I believe, would have been Thursday, okay? Now, what was supposed to happen on Passover? Well, if we look at Exodus 12, God has brought the Israelite people out of Egypt. No, he's getting ready to bring them out of Egypt, sorry. They've gone through 9 of the 10 plagues. And then Jesus was part of it, but it was the Lord. In Exodus 12, it says, "And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron in the land of Egypt, this month shall be for you the beginning of months." So God said, hey, your calendar now starts. You haven't really had a calendar. You've been basing it or working off an Egyptian calendar. No more. This is the beginning of months for you. All right? So the month that is termed Nisan is actually the first month. So when Passover occurs on the 14th day, so we are very close, if we hadn't already gone into the first month of the Jewish calendar, okay? Because 14, if you'll consider next Friday as the 14th day, back up 14 days, we'll see that'll be about right now. Well, I'm taping this right now. So Nisan 1 is happening now, or close to now, which is about March 20th. So it's the beginning of the month. It shall be the first month of the year for you, God says. Tell all the congregation of Israel that on the 10th day of this month, every man shall take a lamb according to their father's house, a lamb for the household. And if the household is too small for a lamb, then he and his nearest neighbor shall take according to the number of persons, according to what each can eat, you shall make your count for the lamb. Okay? So Passover is supposed to occur Thursday. So back up Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday, on what we go on our day today, Palm Sunday, is when they are to take a lamb and put it aside and keep it for their coming meal. Let's see, where was that? His nearest neighbor. Okay, verse 5. Your lamb shall be without blemish, a male, 1 year old. You may take it from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it until the 14th day of the month, when the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill their lamb at twilight. Then they shall take some of the blood and put it on the 2 doorposts and the lintel of the houses in which they eat. They shall eat the flesh that night, roasted with fire. With unleavened bread and bitter herbs they shall eat it. Do not eat any of it raw or boiled in water, but roast it, its head with its legs and its inner parts. You shall let none of it remain until morning. Anything that remains until morning you shall burn. In this manner you shall eat it, with your belt fastened, your sandals on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover, for I will pass through the land of Egypt that night, and I will strike all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and on all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord. The blood shall be a sign for you on the houses where you are, and when I see the blood, I will pass over you. Hence the term Passover. And no plague will befall you to destroy you when I strike the land of Egypt. This day shall be for you a memorial day, and you shall keep it as a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. As a statute forever, you shall keep it as a feast. Man, there's a lot in there. There's a lot in there to understand. God further goes over into Leviticus 23 and puts it into the law and says, these are the appointed times of the Lord. In other words, these are the times God has set aside, okay? Holy convocations which you shall proclaim at the times appointed for them. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, at twilight, is the Lord's Passover. Okay, so he gives it and places it in the law and says every year on the 14th day of the first month will be Passover. With that, I got to take a break. So let's do that and I'll be right back.